Before I get into this, I'm going to say I am the headmate of Mongrel and not Mongrel herself. She and I ended up co-fronting during the recording of some of these segments, and as a result, this may cause us to come off as incoherent, particularly parts 1B and 1C. I will be speaking in the first person because nobody really will fucking care which headmate was fronting at the time of anything happening. You barely care about actual facts as it is, so why does it matter? And with that as well, I'm going to say that it's just a thing that happens at this point. It doesn't fucking matter. Yeah. I'm better equipped to handle it on my own than she is. Because, well, this is fucking traumatic, and it gets worse as it goes. So with that, this is going to be uploaded, and feel free to listen to whichever piece of part 1 you want, but this is just for clarity's sake, so that way anyone else reading can understand what's being said. Alright. Part 1B, the true bad stuff. Before I actually get into this part, I cannot fucking stress this enough. Explanations are not synonymous with excuses. Only a complete imbecile treats them like they are. I am not excusing anything I did wrong. I will say what I did, why I did it, and I will explain any applicable legal defenses as needed. These are not fully excusable actions, and they are, at the best, ethically dubious. I am not excusing my ethics, I am explaining the circumstances, and these are entirely different things. Do not be as stupid as possible by treating explanations and excuses as synonymous. The default is that they never are and never will be. Now, with this disclaimer handled, for those who are too inept to properly communicate, I'll get on with the proper segment. First, the fuck up that seemed to have gotten me the worst amount of backlash than previous circumstances did, weirdly enough. The Carmen Ryder bluff. The bluff I did in her server. Something that wasn't illegal, but it was absolutely unethical. My full self thought Carmen was being unjustly harassed by an individual known as Perry, who themselves is a pretty nasty shitheel, but didn't deserve anything Nekopon nor Endo put them through. Or caused, for that matter. We're going to talk more about Perry later. But what I did was I utilized my nightmarishly bad, artificially destroyed reputation that I was some monster to pretend to be a nightmare hacker that got everyone's tokens on Discord and get whoever the fuck was helping to harass Carmen to expose themselves. This was nothing short of asinine. I'm honestly surprised, looking back, that Carmen agreed to this idea and thought it was good. I'm also a little bit horrified. I thought of something that underhanded to begin with, to actually consider someone doing, whether it was myself or someone I'm helping. And it makes me wonder what drove me to such point to willfully cause stress on mostly innocent people. Except maybe, I mentally broke a bit and decided it wasn't worth it to try clearing my name anymore at that point, after everything said about me had me treated as though I was guilty until proven innocent, according to, well, everybody. And let's talk about the other thing I have infamously done, because all of you just seem to believe the worst things possible without looking into reasoning or listening to the other side. And it's actually really fucking concerning. This was when I crashed Phantom Strider's Community Day on the Lunar New Year in 2021. The reason I did this was because he fired me without fucking telling me. I was actually doing his captions for his videos from January of 2019 through December of 2020. To Strider's credit, he did pay me every time. That is the best thing I can say about this racist, misogynistic motherfucker. The problem was, when I tried to call him out, and he publicly agreed to hear out what I was going to say, he went back on his word right after saying he would hear me out. And he's not exactly a good guy. What I was calling out, in part, was how he was sending very inappropriate messages to Nekopon, in particular, as in they were flirting for a while. Feel free to gag. I understand. Even ignoring how I was groomed by Nekopon because of him actually trying to get me away from that situation, to his credit, the way Strider just avoids any accountability is kind of ridiculous. And I kind of wonder how his wife would react if she knew he was flirting with Nekopon while he was dating his wife while she was still his girlfriend. I do see what was said in the screenshot. Something important to keep in mind is Ariana groomed me. I will touch on what he got wrong later. But this is the sneak peek. And I'm showing proof to every single one of you being wrong about my motivation involving Nekopon being rejection. And that I was, in fact, over my crush on her before she caused the worst day of my life so far. Here's the timeline of those events. The few days before I was going to call out Strider, I ended up with some sleep deprivation because I got woken up in the dead set of night by really loud fucking noises in the abusive household I was stuck in. And on top of that, it was bad. It was just bad in general because that household was, as I said, incredibly fucking abusive. Anyone who has heard me out will know I was stuck in an abusive household at the time Ariana fucking groomed me. But February 12th of 2021, on the Lunar New Year, I call out Phantom Strider in his server on his community day. This was deliberate, so that way everyone would know what he fucking did. I brought in some friends to back me up as well. After that, I ended up taking a mental health break for 4 days. It started on the 14th, officially. Not the day after, but the second day after, because I finally got that clouding of my judgment out of my system. And as a result, I took those days. Ariana had gone off to do something else. And so my mental health day was I just wasn't moderating for Ariana's or Star Giant Productions Discord servers. That was the primary point of the mental health days. Just let anyone else handle it instead of me. because I was the one that had the most time to actually look through those servers and make sure they were okay on the regular. And I took a step back so that way it wasn't constantly overbearing. And now you gotta think, why the fuck would I be doing that unless I was trying to improve after what happened with Phantom Strider? But yes, I was a moderator on Star Giant's server for a few months. I don't remember the exact amount of time. But I can verify personally, Endo never contacted a moderator on Star Giant's server. And anyone who was a moderator on that server would not have had the power to ban Necopon. Only Star Giant had that power. With that said, now you can understand why she was in there for so long. Rosa Ray Ramsey did not deserve that harassment. She did not have the power to ban other moderators. And back on track, you can see that because I was away from Necopon and not in constant calls with her over a few days, I very swiftly got over that crush I had on her from her having groomed me. I even said, because I thought she actually did not like that I had that crush on her, that I thought she would be happy to know it had gone away. And I even explained a possible reason as to why, which honestly, that was the month that she was grooming me. December of 2020 is when she really went home with it. That entire fucking month. I apologized because she had gaslit me into believing I sexually harassed her when I never fucking did. But that's beside the point. On to other matters I made involving the mistakes of trying to expose Necopon. Potentially committing a crime, allegedly, specifically a felony in the process, without realizing it. Spoiler alert, I didn't commit a felony. Legally, I'm still in the clear because of a thing called mistake of fact, which is, to put it simply, where if you break a law and it's reasonable to conclude you didn't know what you were doing was illegal, then you're considered innocent. The alternative is insanity at the time of the crime, because the harassment aimed at myself, the genuinely worrisome lack of sleep during several intervals, such as when I tried to call out Phantom Strider publicly, as well as when I had actually ended up running away from the abusive home and became homeless, living out of my van. Yeah, part of the circumstances of when all of this started, actually all of this started, except for the captioning job, when I was stuck in an abusive household for over a year. We will get to that more often. We will get to that later. But in my desperation to expose a predator who I didn't even realize at the time had groomed me for about 4 months, I had been driven to an incoherent state of mind. Part of said incoherency was I was desperately crying for help. And everyone listened to that groomer Endo. Yes, Endo is a fucking groomer as well. I'll get to that. But they listened to him before listening to me. Or, just as horrendously, they listened to my groomer, Ariana. My inability to rest and progress made it impossible to properly articulate things and clearly communicate because of the harassment campaign aimed at me by Zachary at the time. because it was a full fucking witch hunt. I couldn't have reasonably known what the law was by and large. So either way, I wouldn't have done that shit involving those censored photos that I received from Endo that were shared with the express purpose of trying to expose a predator and not for anyone's gratification in the slightest. Said photos, as I said, were provided by Zachary to start with. If everything else were in proper order, it would be known who those were first received from. Endo. That's who. Zachary, however, did share those photos after claiming they were illegal, considering how himself, VB, Maury, and I'm fairly certain Nilsey all dogpiled me for sharing them. No, it doesn't make shit okay. It obviously wasn't. But maybe it'll help explain to some of you who are less informed why it happened and how it got to that point. Because what happened was Endo obsessively tried to crush my ability to speak up and say anything. And I ended up incoherent from that witch hunt as a result. It was an obsessive attack on me. I was desperately trying to speak to anyone I could, and Endo reveled in that distress and sabotaging exposing Nekopon. And now for a more minor thing that Lyo decided to weaponize in his endless hatred of the poor. To openly state, yes, I was arrested, specifically for shoplifting. Because I had lost my job. Because some fucking psycho involved in all of this, either Lyo or Ariana, found where I worked when I didn't share it publicly, and proceeded to falsely accuse me of sending sexually harassing texts, as it were stated. Oh, not yet. Sexually harassing texts was the false accusation to get me fucking fired. Let me reiterate, to put it more plainly. The insanity of this drama and the harassment aimed at me was so severe, I was stalked to my real life job, and they deliberately lied to get me fucking fired. The perpetrator who did this for a while was up in the air whether it was Ariana or Lyo. Neither would shock me. I actually wouldn't even be surprised if they were working together in secret to this day, because by Lyo's and his whole fucking pedo rings logic, you attract the kinds of people that are most like you. And there were several people who have been in the Senate that have been exposed as groomers and predators and all sorts of fucked shit. So it makes sense Lyo would end up friends with my groomer as well. Especially considering I was also accused, stupidly, of deliberately enabling Ariana when she had groomed me. Me losing my job led to me likely getting blacklisted because I was having trouble finding a job after. And then I had to steal food to be able to eat. This is where we get to the thing that actually happened. I got caught shoplifting. Big fucking whoop. It was a goddamn Walmart. They wouldn't miss the money ever. How creepy is it that actually... This is where I think it's Lyo who did this that got me fired, by the way.
How creepy is it that Thomas apparently kept up with everything about my life so much he knew I was in jail? Because that's fucking stalker shit right there. To be looking up my name that incessantly, to know I was arrested within 2 days after it happened. The way I know this is because of that second call poor Rosa was in, where that motherfucker was harassing her, and he brought me up as a way to further degrade any concept of listening to me. Well, Rosa brought me up, and then he immediately degraded anyone for listening to me, particularly her. He actively said this. This was 2 days. You can see it in the Rosa's last stand call, I believe it was, that this happened in January of 2023. Because I looked at the corner on that video. It said January 9th. I forgot when I actually was arrested at that moment. I looked back, found the record, and it was January 7th. Lio knew within days. That fucking creep stalked me and probably still is to this day, trying to figure out how to stalk me more, because he has raided 2 Discord servers to come after me. One was Nilsy's, the other was a YouTuber known as Kitty Monk. Her server went to shit the moment I was banned because I'm an actually good moderator and I actually care about people. It's why I was a moderator on her fucking server. Something I have been accused of by others also is willingly and knowingly, it has to be both, willingly and knowingly, working with apparent pedophiles or other unsavory individuals. Which, unfortunately, I have had a couple of occasions where I reached out to such unsavory individuals. This is because of the reasonable doubt created by the false accusations that Thomas or anyone else in his crew have claimed, particularly against me. And even just how Thomas treats disabled people with his penchant for a dishonest presentation of others, it's a reasonable fuck up to not believe claims of someone being predatory if you were not presented with the proof of such claims. Especially when the primary source of people accusing others are also known to lie about you. Let's further exemplify this. Because, with all that said, I did not work with Kitten Cunt. Yeah, I accepted being in contact with him on 2 separate occasions. Because, my full self gives extra chances too often. And then more on top of that, the people who I believe to have potential to get better tend to be younger than me. I made this full belief with Graceland and Ray Rance, both of whom, for the record, will deliberately choose the actions that can cause the most harm at every opportunity given. Both of you will be torn apart later. One of you is a groomer, the other is a pedo defender who helped harass a 13-year-old girl. You know which one you are. And for further point of reference, I first heard about Kitten Cunt from Endo or someone defending him in September of 2023. Possibly earlier in August. Actually, no, it was August. And I didn't believe Kitten Cunt was actually real. I thought it was another fake created by Endo. Proceed to the last week of October that same year. I did foolishly accept being in contact with Kitten Cunt. This was for a week. I saw him post a video of a guy blowing his brains out on Twitter. and blocked him. I actively suggested for Kitten Cunt to do things that would allow him to do his weird fucked up shit without hurting anyone else. And because he didn't take that, it didn't fucking... there was no fucking reason to keep talking to him. Especially once he fucking posted that. I blocked him. A few days later got curious after having reported a lot of his fucked up shit to get his account banned. Later on unblocked him, and when he said that he didn't know why I blocked him, I said why and then reblocked him. So that way he would fucking know. I believe I sent it as a message, no less. But yeah, that's what fucking happened there. Not yet. Regardless, this is how bad things are. I can't even believe the words of Endo on an actually disturbed individual who worked with Lio. Because that's the thing. How can you fucking say, I wasn't working with Lio, and then say, Lio got that video because I sent it to him? That's literally a sign that you were working with him. And at the time of this, you did try to contact me again, KK. I never want you to disgrace my presence with yours ever again, you sick, disturbed individual. Please get yourself into an institution so you do not hurt anyone. It is disturbing and disgusting what kind of individual you are. And last I heard, you weren't even an adult yet. That is absolutely fucked. I'm also going to address my statuses real quick. Some of these were me just trolling, particularly the high numbers. Because I figured if anything, I would have power over something that could actually be fun in my own petty method of getting back at any others, because there was always some sort of freak out happening whenever I apparently posted a new change in my numbers on those statuses. The low numbers, as in single digits, were me counting how many people had become full enemies for myself. And yeah, okay, fine. It was a lot of shit, and it was honestly a reasonable thing to do with the statuses. It's not like I was fucking doxing anyone or falsely accusing them of anything. If I hadn't been harassed and dehumanized so severely, I probably would have stopped at the statuses. But when people are driven to insanity, that's where things get fucked on all front. For other shit you heard about me, that's all shades of fucked up. It's either getting addressed later, or it's such asinine bullshit that it is not worth my time, and you really shouldn't invest in it either. I will answer questions if they pop up after I finish posting everything, but this would segue into part 2. Except, no, because now there's another major thing to bring up that came about while I was scripting this over the course of well over a year. And it's like every time I got near to recording, I needed to add something else to make sure it was comprehensive. Almost like I was being tracked, as creepy as that is. Chapter 1C. The porn is a lie. Which, yeah, you read that right. Because, get this, motherfuckers, Zachary lied to everyone. First and foremost, they weren't nudes. The person in the photo was clothed. And further on that, get this, the one who fucking censored them himself was Zachary. As far as I know, it was Zachary who censored them. So the only way he could actually prove they were nudes is by having the original, uncensored photos and posting them. No, don't fucking do that. Turns out, it was a bunk source on law that claims that this would count as child porn. Turns out the real shit is that it requires the photos to be, exposed and shared with sexual intent to be considered illegal. So this means that I never broke any fucking laws relating to any fucking CP. And Zachary has been full of it this whole time, meaning nearly every single claim about me breaking any sort of laws is untrue, and y'all can shove it up your own asses. The amount of things this alleviated from my personal stress is halfway insane, actually. And once I learned this after dealing with nearly 20 days of nonstop bullshit at the time, I can tell you I'm feeling real good while typing this. And for best memory, here's a rough recreation of the image using my body as the model to show you what was censored in relation to this illegal photo everyone has been lied to about at one point or another. Do you see how this image is heavily censored? I used myself as the model for this photo to really drive it home. No one would look at this and see porn. They see a heavily censored photo. I used the exact smudges, or rather, I smudged the same spots as the original. But the only thing different is that you can't see the feet in it. But even then, look at this. No one would think this is porn. Like, no. You have to be a lunatic or the absolute most deeply entrenched gooner to think that. And I don't think anyone involved in this is either of those. So congratulations. You lied. You likely shared a different image than the one I had on hand. You claimed something was one way when it was the other, so gaslighting. And it's just this mess. Like, this is what you're seeing. This is what was visible on the person in that photo. And later on, I'm going to get into some of the other messy things with that photo, because it's actually kind of ridiculous how dishonest everyone has been, particularly to me. I am one person against the world at this point. I had nobody backing me up. The fact I'm not dead is a fucking miracle. I'm gonna be fucking real. Everyone who had suggested to me to kill myself, everyone who suggested I tell others to kill themselves, those were instances of breaking the law. The only reason I said you first to anyone is because, well, let's be honest, at that point, it's a thing of, I'm not actually encouraging it. I'm literally just telling you, you die first. As opposed to someone who hides saying, go kill yourself, by pretending to be a Christian saying, find God. I don't know when 2A is going to come out, or anything else with Part 2. This is the best I can do for right now, because reliving trauma is a fucking nightmare, and it is a drag to get through.